Hello guys, so today I'm going to show you a tutorial how to use Blender with Citywars. I'm going to go with the very basic on how to install the plugin, how to use Blender and what kind of style art that we use with the game. So let's begin with. Uh, First of all, what I want you to do is I want you to install Blender from Steam. The reason for that it is because the game has easier access to the Steam version. So if you already have one, the Blender normal on your game, on your PC, you can already use it. But I strongly advise you to use it from Steam. So let's begin. Let's launch Blender. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you how to set up the very basic scene so it gets a lot easier to work in the future with it. Great. Uh, if you are not familiar with Blender, what you have right now is you have your 3D scene, which is here. On your right, you have the layer, which all the objects that you have and all the organization of the scene are here. What we are going to do right now is we are going to set up the scene to be more compatible with Citywars. So first of all, let's delete what we don't need. We don't need the camera, we don't need the basic cube, and we don't need the lightning. Also, make sure to delete the collection. Great. So now we have an empty scene. What we are going to set up right now is the lightning. So I want you to set up the lightning to flat. I want the color to vertex, and I want also the back culling activated. So what it does is now the lightning won't be affected by any light in the scene, which is what we are working. The color are going to be set vertex, which is what we use under Citywars, and the back face culling will allow you to see exactly like Unity. If there's an object or a face that is reversed or anything, you are going to see through it because Blender allow by default having double-sided object. Okay, so the scene is set up. What we are going to do right now is we are going to do file default. Let me just move myself a little bit. File default save startup, and make sure you don't move too much your mouse because you are going to lose the double check, and if you don't set the double check you are going to lose all the setting we've done. So file default save startup, there you go. So now we have the scene all set up at. Let's install the add-on that will allow you to export the object. So you go to the group that I just created. I'm going to add you to this one. You download the plugin. It is there is a warning because it's a zip file, but what it is the add-on. So now from there, what you can go file. It's a preference. You go to, let me move it a bit, add-on. Then from there you click install. From the install you can go into your download and let me just search Citywars plugin, Citywars GLTF exporter 1.3. There you go. So install, and now you need to search it back. Where is it? Let me just, maybe I wrongly click on it. There we go. Okay, so now you click on it, make sure that it is selected and it is activated. Okay, great. From there, let's just reset the default to startup. Oops, sorry. Default save startup. There you go. Now you can close your program. So this is going to, you don't need to save the scene, but closing Blender is going to save the config that we just set up. Great. Now that we have the program installed, the scene rightly configured, and we have the plugin configured, now you can return from inside the game. From inside the game, make sure that you have a rank that allows the administration. To see if your game has it, make sure that you can activate creative. So if I press Alt in the game, you see that it is activating the creative menu. Okay, so make sure if you have the creative menu activated, make sure you don't screw anything well or anything, because right now you can anything from inside the game. Activated 1, then disactivated back. This is activating your gameplay as administrator. So from there you have a lot of different setting that is going on. You can see data that the player cannot see. What is very important right now is because we activated admin and then we disable it, right now we can use the Blender plugin to be able to access the object from inside the game. So if you check here, if I want to edit the object here, this one, by example, I stand on it, this little tree here, I can stand on it, I can press N, okay, let me just write it, so this character here, and you open, if everything is set correctly, it's going to open automatically Blender. It is going to import the object, and from there what you should be able to see is the object that we just opened. And you can do this manipulation with any object from inside the game. So if you want to change, for example, this flower here, you stand on it, you press N, and then it's going to open the blend file. And the new Blender seems a little bit longer to open, but it still do the job. Great, so now we have the object. Let me show you how you can create your first object into Citywars. So I create a world so where everyone can just edit their stuff into it. The name of the world is called TP map. So if you are not very familiar with command in a game or OS or whatever, just type exactly what I'm going to write. I'm going to take the command and I'm going to put it into Discord. So /TP map 2022, and I think I named asset if I remember well. Yes, I did. Okay. So this map will be the place that you will be able to test your object, place them on the ground, do a lot of stuff. So please do not exit the main world, do not exit other place, because we are going to have a problem when player will be stuck with object in everywhere. So this place you can do whatever you want into it. Okay, now you have creative. What you can do is you can press Alt. This is going to have the creative menu. You can go on your left UI, you have all the tools for creative. I'm not gonna explain it because I already made multiple tutorials about it, but let's go to the object menu, which is represented by the cube. Then from there, what you can do on your right, you have this search object section. So the list of object temporary that we have right now are the special object. In later, you are going to have your very own list of objects that you can edit. So if I check, for example, right now, my list, it is darker B, and all these objects here are mine to do whatever I want with them. Okay. Since you are new to the project, you are going to use the public section, which is the special object list. So you click on the object special, try to take one that didn't have been edited yet. It's possible that you have to scroll a little bit if there's more stuff. Okay, so right now I'm the first one, so let's take the first at the top. Okay, you place it on the ground, and exactly like I showed you before with the tree or the branch or anything that you can edit from inside the game, is you can press N, and it is going to take the cube and it is going to put it inside Blender. So Blender is going to open, and you are going to have this cube here that you can edit. Great. So I'm going to teach you some basic about how to operate into Blender. If you are very familiar with how it does, you can skip this part, but you at least you will know a little bit more how to move in Blender. Okay. So middle mouse button will let you rotate around the object. Shift middle mouse button is going to let you move sideways with your camera. Scrolling is for zooming, scroll down, zoom out. After that, what you can do is, by example, if you want to change your camera to a certain angle, you can make sure that you activated your numpad, otherwise you are going to get stuck with these functionality not working. But if you need to have your angle to front of the object, you can press 1. If you need to be at the top of the object, you can press 7. And if you need to be on your left of the object, you can press 3. If you check on the numpad, we have 8, 4, 5, 6, which is some kind of arrow, and you can use them to rotate around the object. Okay. You see, oh, 5 is going to change for different perspective, but 2 you can let you go up to go down. Okay. If you want to go up the object, you can press 7, but if you press Shift 7, it's going to go down the object. If you press Shift 1, you are going to the other side, and Shift 3 is going to the other side. So by doing so, first let me just move a little bit. Can I return back to? There you go. Okay. Okay, so that's how you move into Blender. If you are very familiar with working with multiple space, having different angle or anything, you can just go put your cursor at the top here, click at the left corner exactly, and from there you can see you can implement a new window. Okay, and from each window you can do exactly what I just showed you. So if I press 1, you can have one side. And if you see here, I can move another one, and I can put another camera at the top. You see, now we have all the face that we are looking for. Great, so that's the basic for moving. There is some other more complex, but there's a lot of tutorial about Blender and everything, so I really want to focus on the basic about it. Okay, so I'm going to remove this. If you want to remove a window, okay, you can just push it down. So you see I'm taking the, not exactly the top, because if I take the top, I'm going to push this one up, but you can push the other one. So you just like take the corner and then you push it this way. So there you go. Okay. In Blender, the way the thing work in general is if you check on your left, you have the type of mode that you are right now. So if you are in object mode, you are going to be able to exit the object. If you see right now, I can move the entire object. If you are inside exit mode, you are going to be able to exit each vertex individually. If you are inside the sculpt mode, that is more a tool to shape the doing sculpt to object. If you check here the vertex paint, which is used to color the object in Citywars. We also have the white paint, which is used for the animation, and we have the texture paint, which is used to paint texture on object. The third one, that the three that we are going to use with Blender for Citywars are going to be the object mode, exit mode, and vertex paint. For the other one, I'm not going to enter into detail. Like I said, there's already a bunch of tutorial on the internet, so let's keep it very simple. Okay. Object mode is used to move the object. So how do you move object into Blender? Like I said earlier, Blender is filled with a lot of shortcuts. So when you don't know the shortcut, it gets a little bit tricky to move the stock, but recently they added a bunch of tools here. So if you check move, you can move the object like this. If I click rotate, I can rotate the object. If I click scale, I can scale the object. Yeah. So in general, when you work with Blender, what I prefer to do personally is I work with the shortcut key. So if I press J, there you go. So you see now that the object is going to move with my cursor. Okay. If I press X, now the object is going to move only on the X axis. If I press Y, now the object is going to move only on the Y axis. And if I press Z is going to move only on the Z axis. Great, so that is for moving your object. If you press R for rotate, you see now that we are rotating the object. If you press RX, you are going to rotate only on the X, RY only on the Y axis, sorry, RZ only on the Z axis. Great. Same for the scale system, so S for scaling, SX for XY, XZ, there you go. Now if you want to move object scale or rotate, but only you want to only have two of the three axes. So what you can do is, by example, if you press G to move the object and you press Shift Z, you are going to eliminate the Z axis. So you see right now that my object is moving, but it is not moving on the Z axis. If you press S Shift Z, you are going to scale the object all direction except the Z axis. If you press S Shift Y, you are going to expand the object, but every axis except the Y axis. Okay. So that is for moving object. Now what you can do, instead of going up here and clicking on edit object, in Blender the quick way to edit object, you press tab, and what it's going to do is it's going to just change this section. You see, object mode, edit mode. The way we work with Citywars, there is one very the system is very practical to be able to edit object. The only problem is that the format that we have to use to do this kind of trick won't be able to save the parameter of your object. So every time you open an object, let me show you, all the vertices of the object are not linked together. So it is kind of a bit of a mess to work with. You see that all the faces are not connected. So what you want to do when you start with the object, first you select everything, you press M to merge all the assets by distance, okay? And from there what you have is, right now if you see, and I change, you see now that all my faces are connected to each other. See this part, you see this part, there you go. Now that your object is all collided together, it is a lot more easier to work with. If another trick I can give you is, you can select everything, okay, and when I say select everything, I'm saying press A, which is going to select everything in the game, in the Blender. Okay, so A is going to select, double A is going to deselect everything. So A one time. And another trick I can give you is, I can select everything and I can press Alt G, which is going to remove any triangle. It's going to try to remove, because sometimes it doesn't work very well, but it's going to remove any triangle into the scene. So let me just show you, and you see right now that working with my object is much easier since there's a lot less triangle to this. Great. Okay, so now we have the object ready. You, like I said, let me just repeat just in case. You press A to select everything. You press M to have the merge option, which you can merge everything at center, but this is not exactly what we want. You want to merge everything by distance, so every dot that are connected to each other are going to be merged. And from there you want to do Alt G to remove all the triangle. Okay, so we have the object ready. I'm going to show you how to work a little bit with the vertex right now. As I show you with the object, you can do exactly like before. So you can take a vertex, and if you need to select something, it's left click with the vertex, but you can press shift click to select multiple objects. And you see right now, if I press G, I'm going to be able to move the vertex that I just selected, and I can do exactly like I show you with the object. So I press G Z, which is going up down, G Y, G X, and you can move the stuff, air to rotate, and everything. The particular stuff that you can do now that you have the vertex selected, if you check at the left screen, you have, by example, the dot selected. So right now I'm selecting dot on the object. If you check here, I also have the edge selection. So instead of selecting dot, now what you are selecting is edge on the object. You see, there you go. And you also have the face selection. So instead of having to select each individual dot, now you're selecting the face of the object. Great. If you need to select an entire object that is connected together, so by example this question mark here, I can press, if I deselect everything, I can press L to select the all connected face or all connected dot together. So you see now that I have this selection. You can press L again to add another props to it. There you go. And you can press Shift L to remove connected face to it. So if I selection the cube, I can press Shift L to remove it. Okay, so that's for the object. Right now what I'm going to show you is just some very basic of how you can edit the object. So you have this cube here that I have. I'm going to put my view on the side, so I'm going to press 1. From there, what I want to do is I want to be able to see through the object, because if you check here and I press B to have a selection, that all my object is going to be selected just with the dot that are in front of my camera. So what you can do is you can activate the X-ray mode. So toggle X-ray mode, and from there, if I press B and I do my selection, you see that I can select the entire area with this. Great. So I extend my cube just to show you a little bit how the editing works. Sorry, I'm just gonna drink a little bit of water. Great. Okay. Now that we make some change to the object, what I'm gonna want to do is I want to export the object inside Citywars. So to do so, what we just done earlier is we installed the add-on. If I go here, and you see we have the tab Citywars, which I'm going to click, and from there what we have is the Citywars plugin, which has multiple settings, but the very important one is the exporter. What the exporter do, it is very simple. It's going to take the ID number of this and it's going to export the object on the server. If I go check inside the game, you see here, if I put my cursor on my right screen, I can see the ID of the object. The ID of the object is 12417. Okay, that's the ID of this object. If you check inside Blender, it is exactly the same ID. So when you click export, you are going to export over this object. Make sure before exporting that the ID of the object is the right one, because by example, if it was like this, I'm going to wipe another object. So double check every time that you export an object, make sure that you have the right one. You export, and now if I return from inside the game, what you have, the object is still the same, because you have to tell the server that you have reloaded the object. So to do this action, you have to hold air, and you see it's going to draw a red circle around your character, and every object that is inside this area is going to be reloaded by the server, and your client now is going to have the updated version of this block. So now every time that you want to do some change into the object, you can very simply just change it, then click export, and from there you are going to have the object updated live on the server. If you ever export the object and it doesn't seem to work, most of the time the error that happens is because you created some kind of object. I'm going to show you this very quick soon. You created some kind of object and you export the wrong object inside. So you see here, now I have the error. So just make sure that you have clicked on the root of the object and you have the right object with the right name. Okay. So now how did I create this empty object, and how can I create more object into the game instead of starting with the cube? So let's restart, let's return to the object mode. I'm going to remove the X-ray, and from there what you want to do is Shift A, which is going to open this little menu here. And from this menu, what you can do is you can create multiple objects from the game. So in general, what we do with the game is the empty object to be able to place some parent or special node into it. Or you also have, by example, the mesh, which in general we use the cube for the game. So I'm going to create a cube. You see now that I have my cube. I'm going to move my view with 1, press tab to edit the object, G to move the entire all the dot. I press A also to select everything, and then I press Z to move only on the Z axis. I moved the cube to be at the ground level, so this level here, and I also hold Control to make sure that my object is going to move on the grid behind. So I make sure that everything is very aligned with everything. Okay. So now we have this cube here. So let's, for fun, export it. So if you remember well, if I click export, I'm going to have an error here. It doesn't export error because right now it has export object called cube, but we need to have the if you check, let me just show you. You see right now we don't have anything because right now we exported as object called cube. What we want to do is we want to take the ID of the object here and we want to make it this one here. Okay. So now if I click export and I reload the object, I'm going to have my cube. So if you check right now and you check the cube, it seems to behave a little bit weird. Okay. And the reason for that is because in Citywars we don't use any UV we use the UV system to tell the game what is moving as a leaf and what is moving as a tree. Okay. So if we check here and I open another window, I'm going to right now we are inside the 3D viewport, but what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to the UV editor, which is going to tell me where are my UV. In Citywars we don't use them. So if you check right now, I'm editing this cube here. There's no UV at all in the object. But right now, the object that we just created, Blender is going by default to export a UV setup. So that is causing a problem for your object because it is creating this wobble system. And the reason for that, it is because you have this UV exported in general. Okay. If I go here and I change the just change for the cursor. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is when you are inside the UV, it is exactly like the 3D view. You can press A to change the to select everything. You can press J to move the object. You can press S to scale it. You can R to rotate it. So, but what we want to do right now is we want to put every dot in the scene at the location 0. And the best way to do it is if you check right now in Blender, you have this little cursor here. You probably, maybe because by mistake or anything, but you might have by accident moved this cursor. If you check here, you see right now we have a cursor, and same for these windows here, you also have a cursor. Okay. So the cursor is a tool that you can use to help you pivot object, scale object in a different manner than just having the pivot point of the object in the center. Okay, let me show you. So right now, if I select every dot and I scale it, it's going to scale at the center of the object. But if you go here at the top, and instead of using the median point, sorry, right now I think it's set to the bounding box center. You set it to the 2D sector cursor, sorry, the object is going now to scale in function of your cursor. If you check, I'm going to change my cursor. Okay, and we are going to use this functionality to be able to set the object at 0, 0. So what you want to do right now is you want to press Shift S, which is going to open the cursor menu. We are going to change the cursor to select to cursor offset, select to. I don't seem to have the cursor at the minimum. Let me just see here. Okay, I have the vertex, I have the tool, select box, view. Okay, so right now here I have the location of my cursor. What I want to do is I want to place my cursor to 0, 0. And from there, oops, I just move it back. There you go. Let me just change. Good. And from there, what you want to do is you want to scale your object to the minimum of the place. So what you want to do, if you check right now with the cursor with the numlock, you can press S2 to scale the object 2 times. If you press S 0.5, you can scale it half the size. I think maybe my cursor broke, but let me just show S2 is going to scale it 2 times. So what you want to do, S0 is going to scale the object to 0, and you are going to have to make sure that all the dots of the object are located at 0, 0. There you go. So if now you export the object, you go inside the game, you see now that the object stopped to wobble. Okay, and this is how you fix this problem. And I'm going to show you in what kind of circumstance that you need to use. Everything that I show you with the cursor are also viewable in the screen here. So if you have, by example, the cursor here, and you go into this section just here, exactly like the UV, you can change for 3D cursor, and from there you can scale the object from the 3D scene, or you can, by example, press S, then you can press 2 on the numpad and it's going to scale 2 times your object, or you can press S0 and you can scale the object very, very minuscule. So exactly like the same. In this one, I don't know why it's not in the other one, but you can press Shift S, and from there you can change the cursor to world origin. So now my cursor is back to the 0, 0 location of the world. Great. Okay, so that's for the moving the object, exporting the object. Now I'm going to show you the basic of modeling object into Citywars. And let's give it a try with the tree. I'm not a very good modeler, so, so keep it in mind, but I'm going to try to show you some basic tutorial about how to do it. Okay. Great. So let's edit the object. Okay. From there, I'm going to create some kind of tree, which will allow us to show you how the UV and stuff like this work. So I'm going to, oops, I move again my cursor. Let's just make sure that I have the select box tool selected. So I reduce the size of the object by pressing S, then I press Shift Z to make sure that I reduce the object, not on the 8. From there, then I'm going to press E to extrude the object. Okay. Then I'm going to press S. Let me just remove this thing back to what it is normally. It's that point. There you go. Okay. Great. So now we'll have a tree like this. E to extrude again, S to extend, G, Z to reduce the size, E to extrude again, S to reduce, S extend a little bit, E to extrude, So that's my super tree, as you can see. So there you go. That's the tree we made. Let's just change. I changed the mode for the line tool. Then there you go. Can I double click everything? Is it working? I should be able to just select the, well, it doesn't work, so I'm going to go all around. Sometimes Blender is very good to understand the object, sometimes it's not very good, so you are lucky or you are not lucky sometimes. Great, let me go down. Just want to give it a bit more of the sharp edge. Okay. So in Citywars, try to avoid to add too many details into the object. I know many people love to have some Bezier effect, very smooth area on it. It is not necessary for the visual, and also it's not suggested because it will add a lot of polygon to the object. And keep in mind that the objects are made for mobile, so it is very important to keep them with as low poly as possible. Okay, so that is my super tree. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to merge all the dot at the middle. If you remember at the beginning, I show you how to merge object with N, and what we are going to do is we are going to merge at the center. So now we have a tree. There we go. Let me export the object so we can go see in game what it looks like. It is a big a big tree. So let me just select everything, change for the 3D cursor, and then reduce a little bit the size. Great. So one thing about the tree, if I can give you a little tips, in general, I try to not block the head character because the player find it very annoying. So in the case of a tree, I like to make them a little bit more taller. Okay, so that is the tree. What we are going to do right now is I'm going to show you what it is exactly this thing that I talked to you earlier. So the way we use the UV in Citywars is we tell the graphic card how to handle each vertex in the game. So instead of seeing the UV mapping as a system to be able to put texture on the object, we use it as a graph. Okay. So can I close this thing? There we go. So you have to see this as a graph that tell you this is 100% a leaf, this is 100% a tree, okay, the wood of the tree. So if you check right now, I'm taking the tree and I'm moving this object here to 1, and then I'm exporting the object. If you check right now, is it moving? Did I make a little mistake? Let me see. No, let me just put it there. Okay. If you have some very weird result, sometimes it happens that you change the object, the scale of the object, instead of changing the vertex of the object. So if it happens, make sure to put your scale back to 1. Okay, if your object is, for example, like this, and it is the right size of your object, and you made a mistake, you change it later, but the root of the object is not right, and if you put it to 1, it causes trouble on your creation. You can press Ctrl A to apply the current location. So if you check right now, I'm going to apply the current scale, and you see right now that my object returned to 1. So that's a way to fix sometimes when something is wrong with the object. Okay, so let me see. Right now I'm going to re-export the object. So the object right now is 100% leaf and 100% a tree. Okay, which is the case. The tron of the object is not leaf, so we are going to need to fix it. But it is a tree. Okay. So if you check right now here, and I activate this mode, which is the, I don't know to call it, UV sync, it's going to allow you to, when you select object, it's going to also select the same object on the UV map. So right now I select only the tron and I move it back to this chart here. So now we have the tron that is 100% a tree, but you also have the leaf, which are of the tree, 100% tree and 100% a leaf. So let's go return, see what it looks like. So you see now that we have a tree that is a little bit too wobbled for the kind of tree that I want to create. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to move the leaf a little bit further from the tree. So great, let's see what it does. Still a little bit too much for what I would like, so like this, and there you go. So when you are satisfied with what you want to create with the game, right now I have this tree and I have the trunk. Let me just maybe show you a bit of an example, very extreme example, to show you what the tree thing do. I don't know exactly why this one doesn't do what it is supposed to do, because the tree is supposed to bend. Okay, I know why it doesn't work. Let me see. Tool view. Okay, there you go. It has probably a rotation. Is it right? No. Okay. Anyway, I'm not going spend much time into it, but in general, the more you put the tree section higher, the more the object is going to bend with the wing. Okay, probably maybe the map that I create doesn't have much wing to be able to move the object. But in general, the higher you go, the more the tree is going to be flexible, and the more you go on this axis, the more the tree is going to wobble with the leaf. So. Okay, so now we have the tree, it is moving, we understand the UV. What I'm going to show you is how we color the object. Great. So now it is all white, so it is a bit boring. But what we are going to do right now is we are going to the Vertex pane. You go to the Vertex pane, and from there what you can do is you can color the object. So let me just move a little bit, and you can paint your color, you can choose your stuff. Let me just remove the X-ray mode, and if you check and you start to color the object, it is a little bit annoying to use this tool this way, because you get stuck with some vertices that are not very colored, or some are not 100%. Personally, I don't suggest you to use it that way. It is how it is intended to work with, but the way we work on Citywars is not very efficient for what we are looking for. So what I like to do instead is, by example, I select the color that I want my tree to be, and instead of painting every face about it, I'm using Shift K, which is going to apply the color to every vertex selected in the area. Okay. I just updated the Blender to the new version, so I got no idea where they put my mask setting. I got very okay, it is here. Okay, don't worry. So when you apply a color like this, so sometime maybe you don't want to paint the the tree to be green. Okay, so what you can do is you can activate the mask system. Okay, and from there you can select. Let me just unselect everything. So I press A, like any mod, you can double A to unselect everything, and you press A to select everything. So double A to deselect everything, and you see right now that I can press Shift and select the face that I want to have in use right now. So if you paint normally with the tool, what it does, it allows you to mask certain area. So you see right now that I'm painting on this section, but I am not painting on the other. The nice thing about it is right now you can press Shift K, which is going to paint all the selected surface. So you see right now I want to have this one. There you go. If I deselect the mask tool, now I'm going to return back with my color, and you see that right now we painted the tree with the paint tool. So let's go export it so we can see what it looked like from inside. Let me just move this way. Great. And you see now that we have a tree, and there you go. Okay, it is a little bit bland and it is a little bit ugly. So what we can do to make it look a little bit better? If you check in Citywars, let me just put another object. You see that most of the object that we do has very sharp edge and very I don't know how to say it exactly, but the color feel a little bit more right. And what I'm going to show you right now is how we can apply some shading to the object so it feel a little bit more intense in the scene. Okay. So if you check right now inside Blender, it is very blend together. We don't have any distinction between each face of the object. So what I like to do is I go to the edit mode, I select the plane face mode, and I select the face that I want to work with. Okay. So let's take this one here, and what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to use the shading tool to create a very distinct separation between the two faces. So you see here, remove. Before we didn't see any difference between these two, and from there now what we apply is we apply 5% darker color to this face, and you see that at this moment right now I have a very distinct color differentiation between these two faces. So I'm going to do the same with all the face. What I like to do in general is I use some kind of like visual lighting, and I do the job like if it was the object was lighted from a certain angle. Okay, so I'm going to remove 2 times the shading on this side, 1, 2, and I'm going here, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going here, 1, 2, 3, 4. See, I'm going to do the same with the bottom of the object. So 1, 2, 3. Oops, you see that I forgot the section. Let me just select everything. 1, 2, 3. Something is wrong. When something is wrong like this, what I like to do is I go to Vertex plane, select the color, and then I select the mask, and then I restart the process of painting the object. So like this, I'm sure that I don't have any trouble with the color. There you go. You can also, instead of using the shading tool here, you can also use this one and just go manually change and then Shift K and change the color by yourself. See here. So now we have a much more interesting, visually interesting object, which has some very sharp edge into the object. Okay, so let me export again and see what it looks like from inside. So you see that from inside the game now it is a lot more visually appealing the way it is. But still, it's still missing some detail that I like to add to the object. So when I'm very finished with the object, what I like to do is I just make sure that the object is pleased with how I like it to be. So let me just reduce this a little bit. Maybe let's change this part a little bit. Good. So when you are pleased with the change you have done to the tree, what it's time to do now is you can add some detail to it. Okay. It is important to not go too crazy into the detail, but one of the things that we like to do in Citywars is adding some bottom line and top line. Okay. So let me show you. Right now what I'm going to do is Control R, which is going to add a line. Make sure that you are inside the edit mode. Control R is going to add a cutting line, which allow you to cut the object. So I'm going to go one cutting line here, Control R, and one cutting line just here. Okay. Try to keep the detail a little bit bulky. It's if you put the object like this, it will look very too thin for the kind of object that we are creating inside the project. Okay. Another bottle line here, another bottle line here, and another. Oh, this one won't work because Blender have difficulty to find the object when it is all merged like this. In general, Blender works very well when you have a quad, but when you have a triangle in Blender, it gets a little bit messy. So, okay. If you check right now, I'm going to inside edit mode. I'm going to change for the face mode, and what I can do is I can double click on the line, and normally it's supposed to select everything, but it's not the case right now, so I change the version. Probably there's a problem with it. So what I'm going to do is I select every face one by one, and then I can apply the shading tool. So 1, 2, okay, select this thing, this up, there we go. I'm going to add this time 2 times, but more shading, so more light. 1, 2, okay. Select. I'm going to select this one too, just in case. 1, 2. This one. 1, 2. See that I cannot change the other one. I'm just going to also add another line because I think it would be look a little bit more beautiful. Okay, so let's return to select everything. 1, 2. Okay, you see that both of my line here are not exactly the same size, so let me see if I cannot change it a little bit. You see right now what I done is I press double G to be able to move the vertex on their already existing axis. Okay. So for this one here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the cut line tool. So what this tool does, it allows you to cut some line to existing lines. So I don't think there is shift with this object, so it is going to be a little bit not very straight, but that's going to be how it's going to be right now. So I don't really like this tool. It is a mess to use, so the less I use it, the better I am. But let me just I'm going to try to remove back the part. There we go. And let's do the same thing. So this part here. So at the beginning, you see that I merge all my triangle the first maybe in the first step. In general, try to work as long as you possible with the quad. This will save you a lot of trouble. Let me see if it's not that wrong. Okay, so I'm going to keep it a little bit not straight. There you go, there you go. Click, 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 click. 1, 2, and this 1, 2. Okay, so you see now that we have the tree. It has a little bit more of visual, so we are going to export it. And if you check here, you see now that the tree look a little bit more better. So maybe we could add another part to it to make it feel a little bit more alive. Let's get it very quick. I add a cube. I use Shift A to add a new object. I'm going to scale this cube here, J, Z to move it, then I'm going to rotate it. Let me just add the X-ray. There you go. Oh, one very important thing with Blender, try to work as minimalistic. I did last second with the object on 45 degree or something like this. It get very terrible to work with. So in general, what I like to do is I will create the object the way I want it before, and after that I'm going to change it. I'm going to rotate. Okay, so right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to paint mode, vertex paint mode. I'm going to pipette the color. Let me just select this object here, go to vertex paint, select Shift K, then it is paint. I can return to the object mode. What I'm going to show right now, it is a special part that I like to do. To do what I'm going to create right now is what I want to do. Let me just show you. I just want to create over the top of the tree some cutting in the tree. Okay, so if you check right now, let me just get this one. It gives the illusion that the tree is cut. Okay. You could do this with another way. Let me go under it and I'm going to show you. You could have used the extrude tool to be able to do it. So E, then if you see now I'm scaling. It does visually the same visual. Okay, so both these things look very similar as a point of view of the player, but both these things are very different for a video card to render. Okay, so you check this one here, we only have 2 triangles to render on the game. If you check this one at the bottom, we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 10 triangles that the graphic card has to render. Okay, so it is a lot easier for the program to be able to render this trick here. And you see that I just levitate a little bit the object here. Okay, if for fun I export the object and I go here, you see that as a player, you see that my object is moving because we didn't remove UV. Oops, did I remove every UV? Yes, I did. Let me just place this like that. Great. So you see that as the player in the game, I have been a little bit generous with the height of the object. So I'm going to go a little bit down. You press Shift when you move something, you are going to move it very slow. So right now I'm going to export it back, and you see that right now inside the game there's not much difference between both of the object that we just create. 2 different techniques, but for the graphic card it is very big difference. So just make sure that when you do subdivide the object to add some detail to it or anything, just do not to abuse the extrude system. Okay. There you go. Okay, so now I have my let me just re-put back this part. Let me just change. Okay. Before I move this this branch to the tree, I'm going to add the same technique that I just done with the other one. So 1 shading, 2 shading, and 3 shading. I'm going to add the object here, which this, tick, tick, click, 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 1, 2, okay, and let me just, okay, and I can then, I'm going to add another one, but I'm going to change it from there. So let's go here, 1, 2, okay. So now my branch is ready to be, it's almost finished. Now I can just change this like this. Let me just, okay. Great. So now we have the tree. Oops. Now we have, oh, if it ever happened to you that you lose the object, you probably press H, which is going to make the object invisible. If you need to put the object back, you can press Alt H, and it's going to return it back. If you check here, it's going to make the, do you see it? No, you don't even see it. So H is going to make the object invisible, or the vertex, or anything. Yeah. So let me just take this, yeah, and let's put it this like this. Okay, you see right now that I have one face that I can remove from the project, and this is this one here. So you press delete, then you press delete, and then you can just delete the face. If you delete the vertex, you are going to delete the entire part with it. So make sure that you press delete and you change the face. There you go. Good. So now we have this this tree with the setter branch. Let's return inside the game. Export. Go air, and there you go. Now you have a little detail to the tree. Great. So I think this is going to be all for the tutorial. One thing that I can add is when you see object, make sure there is no one making it. So if you see right now, if you try to change the special object, someone just randomly build a tree. So just don't edit something that is going to be edited by someone. Or you can ask also, is there anyone using this object, or anyway. So but in general, when you see this cube, it is the default object that we use everywhere. So if the cube is empty, in general you can use it. If you guys are multiple inside this map trying to change stuff, just check with someone else to make sure that anyone else is editing. Great. So if you have any other question about how to work with Blender, or some bug or trouble you have, just write to me on Discord. I'm going to give you all the information you have. I will also take the time to sit with you and check what can be wrong or anything. So great. So hope this tutorial helped, and take care, guys. Have a nice day.